to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yance. This is episode 96, and I'm going to be talking about Alexa Bliss and some of her problems that she had with her pig. I'm going to talk about the film The Sheik. I'm going to drift away a little bit from the Nevers and talk about Batman, the animated series. I'm going to talk about politics, and as always, we will end with a quote. So stay tuned. So let's start with Alexa. I don't want to mention her name because that device will awaken. So we're going to talk about Bliss, Bliss, and the death of her pig, her animal, Larry Steve, which is very sad to me. And I'm going to read a statement that she said over social media. So if you hear little things in the background, that is me talking about, that is me rummaging around, finding all these quotes. So here we are. Update on Larry. I am so thankful and overwhelmed with the amount of people who have reached out about vets to try to help Larry. I have called every single number given to me. Unfortunately, most places who claim to treat pigs do not anymore. The only vet that has agreed to see him out of 13 different numbers I've called now is 2 hours away. No one makes house calls. Unfortunately, in the state that Larry is in right now, there is absolutely no way we are going to be able to transport him. This is sad. This is really sad because a vet needs to help animals. If the pig cannot get to the vet, I think it is up to the vet to actually show up. And this was not a money thing. I mean, Bliss has quite a bit from her work in the WWE, but the fact they won't even see her, she said that sometimes she would call people and they would just hang up on her as soon as she mentioned a pig. I mean, it's sad because they said that some of these things are based on like weight limits, and poor little Larry Steve was over the weight limit. It's like, what? So what? We're just going to let the animal die? And it's really sad. She had to, she said that she went to Raw and she had to hear, Raw is the professional wrestling show that she works on Monday. This is not the wrestling podcast, so I will go into, I'll explain that. If this was the wrestling podcast, I wouldn't explain that. But it's really sad to me because here's her animal who she loved. They're kind of like dogs. They're a pet. They're a family member. And she said she had to hear on the phone little Larry Steve in pain, and she can't do anything about it because no one will help her. The fact that the only vet that would see him was 2 hours away. It's really sad. I mean, I've got to imagine that this is bringing attention to a problem that I don't think a lot of people realized, including myself. And what she did, which is really noble, she started a little foundation for little Larry Steve and raised a bunch of money for this. She's raised more than $16,000 for a pig rescue in Florida. Excuse me, I said London, in Florida, and will name it after her late pig. They're building an insulated pig house for the winter, and it's going to be called the House Larry Steve Built. That's so nice. I mean, that is just so nice that, this is a devastating moment. I mean, you got to understand that little Larry Steve was only 4 years old. He died right before his 4th birthday. Now, I had a little toy chihuahua, and he only lived till 5, so I know what she's going through. I didn't have a bunch of people hanging up on me, but I know what it feels like to have your animal in pain, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, she wrote here, we just know that unfortunately there's not enough vets that are able to treat pigs or any tools to be able to help larger animals. And so the fact that she's taking this as initiative to let's make sure this doesn't happen again is I'm kind of at a loss for words because this. Then she posted a video on Instagram, and she said, "Hi, I just wanted to get on here and say thank you to everyone who has reached out about Larry, and to let everyone know that I really appreciate the amount of support and people who have called and texted. I will get back to you. I just can't yet because we're still trying to kind of wrap our heads around what happened. Larry went very quickly, and we don't really fully understand it yet, but he was surrounded by people who loved him. You know, my family was there. We were petting him, and Ryan was playing him music on his guitar because Larry loves music. Oh, I'm not ready to cry. And then she wrote, and I just wanted to say to any animal care person or vet, no matter how big an animal is or how different they are, please help them. I hope Larry's story helps open people's eyes to the realities of having animals around his size. And I just want people to know, I just want people to, do better. We are going to celebrate Larry's birthday tomorrow. I really want to do something where we celebrate his birthday and maybe do like a charity thing to raise money for an animal rescue. And if that's something that you guys are interested in or anything like that, just let us know. And again, thank you, said Alexa. Then she posted a little picture of, Larry Steve, her holding his, they don't have paws, the hoof of Larry Steve. And she said, this morning, Larry Steve gained his angel wings. I'm so sorry we couldn't find you the help you needed in time. Some people didn't understand, but I want you to know, Larry, your life mattered. We are completely heartbroken. Oh, this is so hard. This is so hard. I mean, I love little pigs, and I love animals. And seeing this poor little animal just suffer to me is so sad. I'm going to put, let's put, her real name is Lexi Kaufman. Let's see. The house that Larry Steve, it's called, it's a nonprofit organization called Oinking Acres. It's a nonprofit organization. You can find it on Instagram. I'm going to give it a follow. If you can donate, that would be best. But it seems like they raised a lot of money for little Larry Steve, and they're going to build a little house called the house that Larry Steve built. So that's a nice ending to a sad story. And I really wanted to talk about it because I think that's something that we need to look at is all animals need help. You can't just put an animal as, well, it's too overweight. There's nothing we can do. What do you mean? Of course you can do something, and hopefully this brings attention to this and nothing like this happens again. So, I don't know what else to say. I'm going to say, I'm kind of at a loss for words. This really hits me hard. Okay, so when we come back, I'm going to talk about the film The Sheik. Okay, on a positive note, I looked at Larry Steve's Instagram, and they put a bunch of different celebrities, Sarah Michelle Gellar, all wishing little Larry Steve a wonderful birthday. They had Yvonne Dudley, who's a professional wrestler. They had her ex-husband, who in the professional wrestling world was named Buddy Murphy. And so he knew Larry Steve when he came into this, when she first got him. So that's great that they gave him a nice birthday, even though he's no longer with us. So that's a nice positive moment to end on that story. Sorry about that segue before, but I was really broken up. But that made me feel very happy. So remember, Oinking Acres is the place where you can donate. Oinking Acres Farm. You can find it on Instagram. Go to @LarrySteve if you want to see his Instagram. ALEXA dash Bliss, the bottom dash WWE, and you can find Bliss's Instagram. Have to skirt that issue. Now let's talk about the film that I watched today, this week, which is, it's called The Sheik, and it's about the It's a documentary about the Iron Sheik, and it talks about, coming to this country, being one of the most recognized professional wrestlers, going through drug abuse, and then coming out of it on the other end in a positive light. And it's a really interesting documentary. I did not know that the Iron Sheik was so close to The Rock. The Rock at the end of the film actually credits Jabroni, that saying that he got, from the Sheik. So I thought that was really big of him to show up. It shows, The Rock is one of those guys that, no matter how big a star he is, he always looks out for his friends. He never forgets people. He just wrote something about, Jake Roberts' documentary on Dark Side of the Ring, which I will talk about. But this was directed by Egal Hecht, and the music is done by Michael Hansen. Michael Hansen did, the score is, very much just transitioning into scenes. I wouldn't say it's a great score, but it's a score that works for what it needs to do. But I was really riveted by this. I saw this on Vice, and it really took me. I was like, wow, he really. I mean, you look at all the stuff he did in, through powerlifting. I mean, those clubs that he lifted. Here he is in America. He becomes the most hated, heel. That is the wrestling term for bad guy. And he's the guy who helped get Hulk Hogan to propel him into the stratosphere that he did in the 80s. 1984, they made the decision to give him the championship, and that led to the rise of Hulkamania, which was the saying for the pandemonium, the excitement, the movement that was happening with Hulk Hogan and Hulk Hogan's 80s rock and wrestling type of era, and he was instrumental in that. And, a lot of them, were kind of like, why are you putting him over? Don't do it. And we did. He's a professional. Now, later on in life, he discovered drugs and he lost his daughter. And it's a really interesting story because most people don't come out of the other end of drugs. Usually, it ends with either death or they're never the same again. And here's somebody who, is able to come out on the other side. And it ends with how he became a big celebrity, like through Twitter. People just loved his tweets where he would, curse and, he would talk and, the Iron Sheik verbiage. And people just fell in love with him. I mean, one of the things they pointed to was when Michael Richards had his outburst at the comedy club. He was one of the people that, came out and chastised him. And that just blew up. And his friend, who loved him, just continued to, cultivate him. And now he, goes to, cons and stuff and speaks. And they showed him with all these different celebrities from Beyonce to like everybody wants to meet the Sheik, and it's really nice. It's a nice documentary. It's well shot. It's concise. It's it's only like an hour and 20 minutes, but it's really good. It really tells the story of what you needed to know. I mean, here's this guy who he had marriage trouble, through his drugs, and then he came out on the other side, and he is happy. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think he's in the best of health right now, but I mean, he's late in the age. So, I mean, very few people, don't have health problems at that point in time. But, it sounds like, he got to live a second life. So, and The Rock was really cool talking. I mean, the fact they got Dwayne Johnson to talk on that is nice. And we got all the... It's a really nice documentary. I can't praise it enough. It's not a waste of time. It's something that you just watch. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, I think you can take this in because it's not made for a wrestling fan. It's a documentary. It's gonna tell you what you need to know. They're not gonna talk about angles in professional wrestling. They're talking about the impact he left, and then the impact he left later on in life. I mean, it's amazing how how much of it's amazing. He's still alive. He's 79 years old. Wow. And he still tweets. He writes to the AMC person, one of the AMC tumbles on share offering. He says, "Should I suplex this jabroni?" The Luca is no jabroni. Minecraft championship, but did they ever sell out the Madison Square? Great. He's still tweeting. He's still out there. I mean, this guy has such a huge following on social media. Social media built this man up. And it's great that he has this. I mean, now he can go to, sometimes they showed him going to comedy clubs. I mean, he can talk. If he can talk, he can pretty much do anything. So that's a great documentary to watch. So I recommend it. It wasn't the film I planned on watching this week, but I stumbled upon it. I was like, okay, I have to talk about this. This is way too good to not talk about it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch it again. I want to watch it again, but I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. Is it going to win any awards for being the greatest documentary of all time? No, not really. But it shows how a man can fall and get back up, and that's the best thing I can say. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about Batman, the animated series, and one of my favorite episodes. So stay tuned. So let's talk about Batman, the animated series. Now, I kind of stumbled across this because the awesome channel on YouTube was reviewing, they call it Batmay. Batmay. So they were showing, they were talking about certain different episodes. And I came across one of the episodes that I've always liked, The Demon's Quest. And this is the first appearance of the character Ra's al Ghul. And it was a very dark episode. And so I was like, okay, I was compelled to watch it again. And then I listened to the commentary track of what they were talking about with it. And I was like, this is really interesting. Kevin Conroy is probably one of the best Batmans out there because his voice became so distinctive with that Batman, the animated series. When you have the animated Batman, you think of Kevin Conroy's voice. And he brought so much to that character with just his voice. Now, in this film, in this TV series, this animated show, a lot of things to call it. David Warner, who you may remember as one of the henchmen to Billy Zane's character in the film Titanic. He is the voice of Ra's al Ghul, and he brings another wonderful level to this story. Now, what makes this one interesting to me, because this is one of the episodes of Batman where they took him out of Gotham City. It doesn't really take place in Gotham City. They go to Malaysia. They go all over because the episode starts with. Now we're gonna have spoilers, so. Okay, you've been warned. As always, there's spoilers, but I want to give you just a little bit of a warning. The episode starts off with Robin going into like his old dorm room, and he gets kidnapped by these 3 characters with like these animal masks. And then we find Ra's al Ghul introduces himself to Batman in his Batcave, and he's like, "How did you get in here?" And he's like, "I keep tabs on everyone." And it's interesting. So basically, he says that his daughter was stolen, was kidnapped as well. And Batman gets a photo of Robin, and it's really dark the way they got like a knife almost pinpointed right at him. And it's I mean, just looking at that, the architect, the way they shot this, it's so. This was actually written by Dennis O'Neil. He was the first person who really developed Ra's al Ghul in the comics. So it's kind of a treat that in the Demon's Quest Part 1, they were able to get Dennis O'Neil. Now, Part 2, Lynn Wein came in. But Dennis O'Neil still gets a story by credit. It's directed by Kevin Altieri, who has done a lot of great Batman the Animated Series episodes. And this one just really, I mean, it's cool to see Batman out of his element. You know, he's not in Gotham. It feels like Indiana Jones. It feels like an Indiana Jones adventure as they are trying to find Robin. And he finally finds Robin, and you find out that basically it was all a test to find out, to have somebody. You find out that it's all a test to decide whether Batman will take Ra's al Ghul's, it looks like Ra's al Ghul, that's why I'm saying it, but Ra's al Ghul's place. You can find Ra's al Ghul's story also in Batman Begins, the film. That was the first time they really introduced him in the film. And he's always been an interesting character because supposedly he can live forever. And he has continued to resurrect himself through his Lazarus pits. So you get that cool imagery of that. So he kind of comes out and tells Batman, I need a successor, and my daughter loves you. Because as we see Talia, and we find out that basically this was all a ruse. You know, he kidnapped Robin, and you know he just really wants Batman to take over for him. And Batman won't do it, and he's like, well, that makes us enemies. And at this point in time, Ra's al Ghul's character is very frail. So he's almost about to die, so they have to bring him to the Lazarus pit. And they, lower him in, and he comes out. Now, one of the temporary side effects of the Lazarus pit is when you come out of it, you have temporary insanity. So he lets out this huge, like, Sideshow Bob style laugh of just this demonic laugh that David Warner brings to it that just provokes insanity. And we leave that episode on a cliffhanger as what's going to happen as he's about to throw his daughter into the Lazarus pit. Now, if a normal person goes into the Lazarus pit, they die. They don't really get into the explanation of that, but, it's good for dramatic structure, tension. So that's how we, end with. And then the next episode is all about, Batman, chasing Al Ghul to find him, to stop him because he's going to destroy the world. He's going to drop bombs in all the Lazarus pits in the world, and that will create, basically a nuclear holocaust. And at one point he says how many people, there's like a certain billion of every person on Earth. He kind of believes that the world needs to start over. It's got kind of like a Thanos feel to it for you Marvel fans, but if you've listened to this show, you've heard me talk about Thanos, so I don't think I really need to go in detail about Thanos, and that's Marvel, and this is DC. So they have this nice sword fight, and at one point, Batman bests him in the fight, and, he's like, here, reach my hand, as, they're like above one of the Lazarus pits, and he's like, perhaps it is time for me to die, and he lets himself just fall into the Lazarus pit, and we are meant to believe that he has died. So Batman has saved the day again, and Talia is like, are you going to leave me? Am I your prisoner? And Batman kisses her in front of the sunset, and you get this nice Lawrence of Arabia type feel in Indiana Jones. In the back, that David Lean kind of shot. That perpetuated all the 1930s and the 1940s films, especially the adventure films like that. And so he then he goes off, and we're left with Ra's al Ghul coming out of it, and we see that he did not die. Now that is probably twofold. One, they want to keep the character alive, and two, in Batman the Animated Series, I think they had a rule where you couldn't kill anyone. So that kind of hurts you in certain dramatic storytelling elements when you can't do that. Sorry about that noise. I don't know what to do about it. It's outside, and I can't control those factors. But I hate that. Um, Ra's al Ghul is such an interesting character because it's not like he wants to kill Batman. It's like he wants him to be a part of him so that he can help, cleanse the world. In the movies, he was just going to cleanse Gotham. He was going to kill everyone there so that they could start anew. He said the city's become so corrupt. And so it's an interesting, Dennis O'Neil brought a lot of elements that you might not have got if you didn't have the writer of the actual character, taking part in that. And Kevin Oleteri, it flows really well. The second part, kind of feels like more of just a conclusion, and it's nothing new. Whereas the first part is far superior because you've got this whole whodunit kind of feel. You kind of get the idea that Ra's al Ghul is the one doing it. It's just like, okay, well, who else would have had all this access to this? How else would he know that that Bruce Wayne is Batman? I mean, these are some of the things that they've never really, explored. I got one of his characters. So Ra's al Ghul is not meant to be like one of just, the standard foes of Batman. He's meant to be like kind of his equal in some ways. Because especially in intelligence as well as physicality when he comes out of the Lazarus pit. It's a really interesting episode, and I kind of stumbled upon it by accident. I was like, okay, I got to talk about this because it's so interesting. It's so well done. I mean, at the time, Batman the Animated Series was doing Batman better than the live action films were doing it because they were able to get the dark elements and get the essence of the character. And they had those dark... They kind of continued what Tim Burton was kind of doing. Once Joel Schumacher came in, he kind of clownized Batman, but we were able to come out of that. But Batman the Animated Series is just one of those things where you're just like, how did that get made at this time? And it was kind of a product of it. Now, they're supposedly going to be bringing it back, but this is one of my favorite episodes because it just, the imagery in it, the use of color, just, it's superior storytelling. And it just has that Indiana Jones feel that a lot of the episodes didn't really have that kind of feel. Like this took Batman out of like Batman. And that's what I've got to say about that. I recommend watching this episode, even if you've seen it, even if you listen to the whole of spoilers, it's still good. The Demon's Quest. It was dated... The production dates were supposed to be 60 to 61, but the air date was 57 to 58. And the first episode premiered May 3rd, 1993, and the second episode premiered May 4th, 1993. So that, and then the animation was done by Tokyo Movie Shinsha, and it's a superior episode. You really can't get any better than that. And when we come back, I will talk about politics. So let's talk about politics. The big thing that is just kind of come out is that Trump is now the Trump organization is being investigated for criminal charges. So now it is criminal. And the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, seems like she is hell-bent on going after Trump to basically bring him to justice. We'll see if that happens, but we don't know. I mean, he has to have a trial. I believe he has to have a trial. I'm not sure, but they're probing, and it looks like there's a lot of fire. There's, when you say there's smoke, there's fire. There's smoke to the fire. More smoke to the fire than I don't know. What an interesting saying. I'm gonna cut that out. But yeah, so basically, Trump is hiding out in Mar-a-Lago, and it looks like, they're going to go after him hard. I don't know if they're going to be able to. I mean, this would be, I don't think we've ever had a president be, brought up as, a criminal. Now, a lot of people who are pro-Trump are going to just disregard this and say, oh, this is all fake news and this is a joke. They're just out to get him. And, okay, from their perspective, that could be true. I don't believe so, because this is not really a political thing. This is more, this is, attorneys and people like that. This isn't Democrats going in, although I'm sure a lot of them sympathize with the Democratic Party, but they're seeing the problems there. And I don't feel like this is a partisan type of job, but I don't know. It is up to you. It is up to you, the listener, to make up your own mind on how you see. But Trump could face jail time now, and this could put a pretty big dent in his attempt to, win the nomination and seize back control of the presidency, which he believes he's never lost, which is kind of sad because, I think it would be much better if he just said, yeah, I did lose, but you know what, I won again. But that's not the way he looks at things. The other thing that is very concerning to me, I can't speak, is Biden. He is backing off the public option. He ran on saying, doing a public option. He didn't want to do Medicare for all, but he did want to do, a public option. Now they're backing off on it. And it's just, it's really sad to watch as an American, as you're seeing just the Democrats make the same mistakes that they made in the Obama administration, not getting anything done. If you don't get anything done, people are going to move on to the next person, whether they're good or whether they're better or worse. They're just always going to look for the next thing. That's kind of how it works in this, at least in this country. And it's sad because, they have the House, they have the Senate, and they're still like, well, yeah, but we only have this percentage in the Senate now. And I'm just like, dudes, you guys got to get something done, or it's not going to be pretty. And the fact that they're backing off on the public option, it's another broken campaign promise, like they said with $2,000 checks. They said, well, you already got $600, so we'll do $1,400 checks. And it's like, that's not what you ran on. Stop going back on things. The $15 minimum wage. These are things people are going to remember, and they're not seizing the moment. As far as I'm concerned, Biden has not seized the moment that he could have. He had an approval rating that was astronomical, and he could have done anything with it, and he chose to just do typical politics. And now it's starting to go down. Now it's like 38% disapprove, and it's really sad. And the last thing I want to leave us with is, we needed FDR, and we don't have FDR. FDR is nowhere to be seen. I don't even know who is FDR anymore. Nina Turner, Bernie Sanders. I don't think they are. We don't have the person that can lead us. We're starting to get some of the pawns in there to help, but I don't know. Politics is so frustrating to watch in this country because you just continue to see the same mistakes being made over and over again. And I don't know. What are we supposed to do? I mean, I feel like the only way to get things done is at the state level. The state level, that seems to be the way to get marijuana through, because at the federal level, they can't agree and nothing gets done. I mean, to me, it's becoming a point where it's like it doesn't matter who's in the White House or who's in Congress now. They're just going to do nothing. Nothing's going to get done. They're going to, blame the other person. It's like, that's not what we want from you. We don't want you to blame each other. But that's where we're at, and it's just sad. It's really sad. It's sad. Very sad. A little joke there. But, yeah. Broken campaign promises don't lead to that. And then, Trump, who doesn't even accept that he lost an election. That's where we're at. And it doesn't look good for the country, for where we need to be. We needed to seize the moment. We needed to meet the moment, and we haven't met the moment. So, let's end on a positive note with the wood chopper in the background. It is always the start that requires the greatest effort. It is always the start that requires the greatest effort. True words could never be more said. The hardest thing to do is to just start. Because if you just start, then you can learn on the way. Most people don't ever start. They just stop, or they don't do it, or they think about doing it, but they don't do it. Start. That's the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do if you want something, or you want to attain something, you want to learn something, is just start. And that quote comes from James Cash Penney, the founder and CEO of J.C. Penney. Not a great, ending story to his career, but, he created J.C. Penney at a time, and at one point it was a thriving business. I don't think, not so much anymore. So let's say that quote one more time. It is always the start that requires the greatest effort. James Cash Penney, founder and CEO of J.C. Penney. And for that, I think that about does it. I want to say thank you for listening, as always. You can reach me at Justin Yance, and I will see you next time on the DMF.